Hello everybody. In our today's topic, we will going to talk about the India's journey from non-alignment to multi-alignment. Everyone says India is only 75-year-old nation, but they forgot to address India is the oldest living civilization on earth. Also, India is not only the biggest democracy, but the oldest democracy on earth. And India has gone through several phases in her spectacular journey. Now we Indians are standing at a critical juncture in its relationship with the world. So in our today's topic, we will going to discuss some of the questions. And the first question is, what are the steps India took in her 75-year-old journey? The second one is, what are the steps recent government took? The last but the most important question is, how India is taking the center stage, being the leader of the multipolar world. So let's start with the first question. The first question is, what are the steps India took in her 75 years old journey? Being an Indian, it is a known fact to us that we got independence from British in 1947. It was a time for joy for us and also for the world. For us because we got independence from our oppressor, and the world because world got independence from Nazism and fascism. But India's independence turned into misery because our nation India was divided in the name of religion. The new nation Pakistan was born, and the Pakistan being a nation got full support from United States and United Kingdom. And our political leader at that time reshaped our foreign policy keeping Pakistan on priority because of Kashmir. Also after 1945, the world dived into a new era of Cold War between United States and USSR, popularly known as Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the world was turned into a bipolar world. One world was led by United States and another world was led by Soviet Union. So India decided not to go into any of those blocs. That is why India created her own bloc with the help of the Yugoslavian leader Joseph Broz Tito, Egyptian leader Abdel Nasser, the Ghana's leader Kwame Nkrumah, and the Indonesian leader Sukarno. In the early 21st century, the non-aligned movement counted 120 member states. It was the huge number for that time, because non-aligned movement was the biggest bloc of that time. So these nations decided not to go in any of those blocs. The blocs led by the United States and USSR. India at that time got independence and we were categorized as developed nation. As we were new to the world, so we couldn't afford to take ourselves into a new war or war-like situation. And that war was not ours too. That was the war between the United States and Soviet Union. But we were wrong in some aspects. But we were also right in some aspects too. The lessons of the past can be captured in the 5 baskets of the issues. We will going to go for the 5 baskets. The first basket relates to the need for the greater realism in policy, particularly in the face of non-alignment. We took the right step at the right time, but we overlooked our harsher realities of harsh security. The early misreading of Pakistan intentions was our first misreading, being a naive on foreign policy decisions. And we took the decision because of our lack of experience in foreign policy matters. Also because of Jawaharlal Nehru's lack of insight about the Chinese intention that cost us 1962 defeat. The 1962 war was an unprecedented event after Nehru's rigorous effort to make China as India's friend. So you can see we were in wrong foot in making decision on external matters. And we paid heavy price for that. In 1948 we lost Pakistan occupied Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. And in 1962 we lost Aksai Chin to China. Interestingly, India did not shrink from the applications of the force when required. We used force to liberate Hyderabad in 1948 and Goa in 1961. Apart from those internal issues, India built her image as reluctant power. Besides, we also ended up influenced by our own narrative. Due to that, we also rarely prepared for security situations with the sense of missions that many of our competitors displayed. This had happened because of our then Prime Minister's lack of consultations with military. For example, the 1962 Indo-China War. We lost because of our lack of preparedness, because of our lackluster allies, and because of our lack of political willingness to counter the hard power. We also misread the Cold War. The Cold War was seen more as an argumentative, when the reality was a ruthless exercise of power. There was also the little awareness in 1950s that we were dealing with a battle-hardened neighbor to the north and the west. We ignored the strategic significance of Jammu and Kashmir. That is why the Jawaharlal Nehru took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations unilaterally. Even after Nehru, the Mrs. Gandhi also failed to take the advantage of 1972 Simla Convention by giving an opportunistic outlook to the revanchist Pakistan, even after liberating Bangladesh. So we are witnessing the more grounded and apologetic Indian approach to the international relation, particularly between 1947 to 1975. Now, following our initial policy disaster, we reached our second basket, the economic counterpart. The economy is one of the main pillars. On the backdrop of it, the countries make their foreign policy decisions. Because economy drives diplomacy, not the other way around. If you will have a strong economy, then you will be able to exercise the strong diplomacy. Without economy, diplomacy doesn't exist. To make you understand, I would like to give you some examples of the small and the big nations. These countries are there, but you wouldn't be able to heard about these countries much. How many of you heard about the Burundi? How many of you heard about the Niger, Chad or Mongolia or even Bolivia? How many of you heard about these countries? So, you do not know about these countries because of their economical activities too low for the world economy. Now you can draw your conclusion from here that why India didn't grow the way the China grew, the way the Asian tigers economies grew, and the way the Western world grew. They grew because they diversified their economy and we didn't. Our economy always lived under the global environment. We let the global influences to affect our national development. On the other hand, the China diversified their economy with the greater effect. They were initially with USSR and later with the US and the West. And the Asian tigers, that includes the Singapore, Hong Kong, Korea, Taiwan, grew because of their diversification of economy. These countries became the export-led economy. But on the other hand, India became the import-led economy. After 1991, the economical crisis, India slowly diversified their economy. Even before 1991, India built the steel power plants and the nuclear facility with the help of USSR and the Higher Education and the Computational Model Institute by replicating the model of developed nations like United States and the European nations. The India lacked in development because of the structural rigidityness, limited competitiveness, inadequate exploitation of opportunities or just unfair practices. China get rid of those problems during the time of Deng Xiaoping. Because of the eliminations of the negative impacts of economy, China grew faster than us. And because of that, China poses a special trade challenges to India, even without the negative growth rate in today's scenario. The next basket is all about the maximizing options, and expand the space naturally requires multiple players. Although India was the father figure behind the non-aligned movement, but India realized the concept of multipolar world after 1962 Indo-China War. The conceptually Indian foreign policy was independent because we nurtured the concept of independence from our freedom struggle. But the distance from the one pole was also not automatically compensated by the other. That is exactly what happened during the liberation of Bangladesh in 1971. In 1971, the West led by United States and United Kingdom supported the autocratic Pakistan. On the other hand, we were supported by the authoritarian Soviet Union. There are several examples which can be highlighted in this scenario. But if we will going to highlight all those events, then our topic will not come to an end. But after 1962 skirmish, the superpower like India and the China finding the common ground to take the situational advantage of the world. On the contrary, Pakistan is continuously losing its ground on the world politics. India learns its lesson from 1942, 1962, 1965, 1971 and 1975 situations. That's why India adopted the hedging in the foreign policy. By the way, the hedging is a delicate exercise, whether it is in the non-alignment and the strategic autonomy of earlier periods or multiple engagement of future. India have the hedging examples of today's time like Howdy Modi, Mallapuram Summit and the Vladivostok Summit. The Howdy Modi Summit was organized by Indians and that was attended by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and then United States President Donald Trump. The Mallapuram Summit was organized by India and attended by the Chinese President Xi Jinping. And the Vladivostok Summit was attended by the Indian Prime Minister and was organized by the Russian President Vladimir Putin. Apart from these events, India is also the member of BRICS, RIC. The RIC means Russia, India, China. The SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. These groups are built by Russia or China. So in this organization, Russia and China played a very vital role. On the other hand, India is also the part of the Quad, I2U2, JAI. The JAI means Japan, America and India. These organizations are led by United States. So you can clearly see that India is hedging between the poles. Like the way the India is dealing with Iranians and Saudis. The new versions of diplomacy is not like arithmetic. It is all about calculus, which is pretty easy but very complicated. The complicated for practitioners, that how to forge ahead. They have to go for the new rules. They have to go for the new way to explore the avenues. This is called the hedging. This is called the hedging in the foreign diplomacy, and this is what India is doing. The fourth basket is all about the risk-taking diplomacy. It is also a natural accompaniment to the hedging. When you look at the fourth basket, it is evident that the low-risk foreign policy is only likely to produce the limited awareness or limited awards. So we have live examples of 1948, 1962 and 1971. Because of that, India came under tremendous pressure during that time. But slowly, India adopted a middle road approach to balance out the West and the East. After adopted the neutral foreign policy, India ascended up to the global ladder, whether taking the big calls or taking the decisions, being a nuclear nation, or to make himself or make herself a nuclear nation in 1998, or any other political and economical matters. The fifth basket is all about the return to the primer, because reading the amount of water for making a delicate tea is very important. The foreign policy of all nations is set against the backdrop of global contradictions. They reflect an assessment of opportunities and compulsion, risk and rewards. We misread so many situations in our past. In our own case, going to the United Nations on Jammu and Kashmir clearly misread the intent of the Anglo-American alliance and the seriousness of the Cold War. We underestimated the relevance of Pakistan to the America and the Chinese global strategy. That's why we continuously gave space to Pakistan to use its strategic depth against India and its people. But that doesn't mean that India didn't have success. Both the Indo-Soviet Treaty and the Indo-US nuclear deal were outcomes of a large reading of world affairs. In 1998, India was supported by France, Israel, Russia after testing the nuclear bomb in Pokhran, which US tried to stop. US also put sanctions against India, but they silently removed it because that was hurting their own economy. So all these five baskets are helping us to reshape our today's global political strategy because we learned from them. Our geopolitics changed right after the Prime Minister Modi became India's Prime Minister. It took some time for him to reshape our diplomacy. He visited important countries all around the world. That leads us to our last two questions. The first question is what steps India took and how India is reshaping the multipolar world, being the leader of her own front. After winning 2014 general election, Prime Minister Modi tried to improve India's relationship with her immediate neighbors, even with Pakistan. He did it on the basis of developmental agenda. But the Pakistan led herself or himself away from the path of development to the path of terrorism. You know the Pakistanis are the illegitimate or illiterate bigot of the world, and they will remain so. So let's Pakistan aside of our foreign policy. The second thing he did, he pleaded to introduce the concept of paradiplomacy. What does that mean? That means in India, where each state and the city would have the liberty to forge the special relations with the countries, the federal states or the cities of their own interest. The third one is the bilateral trade. The India gave importance to the bilateral trade over politics. These are the changes the Prime Minister Modi brought to the foreign policy. The biggest and the most important change he did by bringing the foreign minister S. Jaishankar being a foreign minister of the country. The Jaishankar is the flag bearer of our risky diplomacy. The world has changed dramatically after COVID-19 and the Russia special military operation against Ukraine. All nations come under the burden of food security and the fuel crisis. The United States lectured us not to buy oil and the gas from the Russia because according to them, the buying oil and the gas from the Russia mean the investing the Russia's operation against Ukraine. But what about the Europe's purchase of gas from the Russia? Does that not investing the Russia's operation against Ukraine? That was the answer from the S. Jaishankar to the questions which was asked by an American journalist. Apart from these events, the India is promoting its own currency, Taka. There are 14 countries around the world, those who have agreed to do the business in the rupees, including the Russia and Argentina. So you can see the difference in our foreign policy. We created our own bloc. We are not standing with the US, neither we are standing with the Russia. Because these two powers are only promoting the belligerence. And we do not need the war at this time of the world. We need the economy. We need the economy to grow further and further. We need the positive bilateral business ties with the developed and the developing countries. Because of that, India has become the fifth largest economy of the world after surpassing his colonial oppressor, United Kingdom. So India is moving. India is moving from the non-alignment movement to the multi-alignment movement. I hope you will going to like my topic. Thank you very much. Thank you for your support.